Welcome back to another Hockey Psychology YouTube video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the controversial career of Nazem Kadri.
Takes it, but it gets picked off, it's broken up. With his speed, he just buries it. You can see Falk coming across the
So I want to make this video for a couple of reasons. Number one being that I'm a huge Nazem Kadri fan. He was one of my favorite players when he was on the Leafs. Certain instances in his career where other players in his position would have just laid down and given up and taken the easy way. But Nazem Kadri has always had that X factor, push through and become a special type of player. So starting from the very beginning, Nazem Kadri was an unexpected draft pick by the Maple Leafs. It's a move that remained under the microscope for the many years that Kadri was there, but it was mostly because of some of the news coming out of camp and Kadri's personality that made Kadri an easy target to talk about in the media. There's even one year where Kadri showed up to camp out of shape, and Marlies head coach Dallas Eakins had a couple choice words to say about that.
Through the head, the one thing Naz has to improve is his eating habits. His body fat today is probably in the bottom 3 to 5 guys in our whole camp. That's unacceptable.
Now you couple that with Kadri's confidence and his self-belief in not only his skill set, but in his mindset as well, of a controversial player waiting to be discussed in one of hockey's biggest markets. Kadri would spend the majority of his first 2 seasons with the Toronto Marlies, but when he was called up, he would show flashes of brilliance that really showed Leaf fans what this kid was able to do. Now there's one significant difference with prospects coming up at the time and prospects coming up through the system now. At the time, a lot of teams would like to take their time in developing these younger players to be game ready and become a solid contributor at the NHL level. That was just because at the time, the NHL was more of a man's type of game in the sense that older players and players were starting to break into the league around 23, 24, where they're a little bit stronger, a little bit more mature, and they spend some time in the minors. Nowadays, the skill set on some of these kids is astronomical, and any 18-year-old drafted today has way more skill than an 18-year-old drafted 10 years ago. So when Kadri came into the league, the Leafs wanted to take a very slow approach in terms of his growth, almost too slow for some fans and some people, and even Nazem Kadri himself. But considering the Leafs' past of ruining #1 picks and trading away picks, they wanted to make sure that they got Nazem Kadri right. Then came the 2012-2013 locked-out shortened season where Nazem Kadri finally had his breakout year, which put him on the map for Leafs Nation. Kadri's confidence and skill set was finally starting to show itself on this Maple Leaf team and marked the start of the Nazem Kadri era in Toronto. Now after that year, Toronto would struggle as a team. It was such a miserable time that Kadri actually showed up noticeably late to Leaf practice after a blowout loss to the Blues in 2015. The Toronto Maple Leafs eventually hired Mike Babcock. Babcock made it his mission to transform Nazem Kadri and make it a relationship that they can work with. Then when 2017 hit and the Leafs already made the playoffs and they drafted Matthews, Marner, Nylander, we're a young team with a bright future, and Nazem Kadri was a significant piece of that team moving forward. But then came the issue with all the suspensions. These suspensions date back to 2013, where it all started where Kadri was suspended 3 games for basically charging the goaltender Nicklas Backstrom. Then obviously you had the 2015 team imposed suspension when Kadri was late for the practice. Then he was suspended again in 2015, 4 games for an illegal hit to the head against Matt Frazier. In 2016, he was fined for a throat slash gesture against Mark Giordano after Giordano rocked him with an open ice hit. Then you have the infamous playoff suspensions in 2018, where Kadri was suspended 3 games for boarding Tommy Wingles from behind. And then a year later, he was suspended again for a cross check to Jake DeBrusk. Now because of those suspensions and the Leafs' inability to get out of the first round, they had to make a change, so they traded Nazem Kadri to Colorado for both Kerfoot and Tyson Barrie. The Kadri who went to Colorado was looking for a fresh start and a new reputation heading into the new team. Now that fresh start and reputation didn't last too long, as in his second year as an Avalanche, he was again suspended in the playoffs for a high hit on Justin Falk. In the 2021 and 2022 season, Kadri had a breakout year, posting 87 points in 71 games, and he could have hit the 100-point mark if he didn't get hurt. After a monster regular season from Nazem Kadri, as you're seeing in this playoff run, he's been having a terrific postseason. But the talk around Kadri really started to take off when the Colorado Avalanche faced the St. Louis Blues in the second round. Game 3, Nazem Kadri, as you know, crashed into Jordan Binnington off a loose puck and rebound in front of the net. A lot of people question Kadri's intentions when this happened, saying that he may have done it on purpose, but if you look at the play, then you know that there isn't really a lot that Kadri can do in that situation. Can he maybe pull up a little bit? Perhaps. But in that situation, when he's going that hard to the net in a playoff game, it's very hard to not go into the goaltender like that. But at the same time, with the history of Nazem Kadri, I can understand why it's hard for people to believe him. But after Game 3, Kadri did an interview and Jordan Binnington would end up chucking a water bottle at Kadri, and that caused a stir both online and in the hockey world.
If he just threw a water bottle at me or not, but
wow. The terrible part about what happened after that game was the death threats and the racism comments that were directed towards Kadri on his Instagram and on his family's Instagram account. The way Kadri dealt with it, honestly, was fantastic. He came out the next game in Game 4 and put up a hat trick, and he did it in spectacular fashion. Nazem Kadri was a big-time player in that game and in that moment, and that just shows the type of player that he is. A player that's able to rise to the occasion, and there's not a lot of players in the NHL that can do that, and the special types of players can. But I think the best part about what happened in that game was what he said afterwards in his post-game press conference.
I just worry about some people that maybe aren't, some kids that aren't as mentally tough as I am, and have to kind of go through that scrutiny and that criticism, and that's why I want to do the best I can to help.
Then after the Avalanche beat the Blues, they went on to meet the Edmonton Oilers. I had to actually reshoot this part of the video. As you can tell, a different shirt, different hairstyle. Nazem Kadri would end up breaking his hand or his finger. We don't know what it is yet. And he was ruled out for the remainder of the playoffs off of a shove, or whatever you might call it, from Evander Kane. He did not play in the Stanley Cup Finals, but according to Kadri, that might not be a certainty, so we could see Nazem Kadri back for the Stanley Cup Finals. So anyways, that is the controversial career of Nazem Kadri. It has been filled with a whole bunch of events, with tons of adversity throughout his career, and honestly, any young player or young coach has to admire what Kadri has gone through. He's been able to take what other people say about him, take what the media says about him, and he kind of just puts it to the back of his mind. He doesn't let it get to him very much. He's a player that can get under your skin, he can score goals, he can make plays, he can hit, he can change the momentum for your team, and honestly, Nazem Kadri is one of those players any organization would die to have for a deep playoff run. I also think he's a role model for young players when it comes to dealing with adversity. I mean, as you saw throughout the video, there's not many players in the NHL who's dealt with the same amount of pressure that Nazem Kadri has, from being a first-round draft pick in Toronto to the playoff pressures to all these racist comments, and really no player deserves to go through. Kadri has found a way to respond in every single situation and scenario throughout his career, and it's a very good example for young players. If you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon.